Since October 2023, the UN has recorded more than 3,000 Israeli settler attacks against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. Arson, assault, and intimidation. These attacks may look random, but many Palestinians say they follow a pattern, saying they're strategic and driven by a clear goal, which is settlers using violence to forcibly expel Palestinians from their lands. This is the occupied West Bank. These are the Bedouin communities that were forced to leave their lands in the past 2 years because of settler attacks. Some displaced from their lands entirely, others partially. Many more face forcible expulsion. Their locations are often on the edges of towns and villages. Removing Palestinians from these areas means forcing them into already overcrowded population centers and keeping these cities disconnected from one another. Palestinians are almost never allowed to build in the place known as Area C, which is 60% of the occupied West Bank. The presence of these Bedouin communities protects undeveloped land from illegal Israeli settlement expansion. Palestinian experts tracking settler violence say attacks are more intense in the areas where Palestinians are being forcibly expelled.
They're creating a coercive and hostile environment for Palestinians through aggression. It goes beyond the Israeli settlement building. The true aim is to expel Palestinians. Now we have internally displaced Bedouins, but the Israeli plan is to transfer Palestinians abroad.
80-year-old Mohammed Kaabne and 27 other families were forced off the lands they had lived on for decades. Mohammed says it became too difficult to protect the children. Now they live on the outskirts of Al Mghayr village near Ramallah. They fled Israeli settler violence, but only to find it here again.
The situation is getting worse. We might be here today but expelled tomorrow. We expect demolition at any moment, and harassment by settlers isn't stopping. A settler threatened our sheep recently. He said, "This is my land."
For these families too, the pattern is clear. Settler attacks stop only when they leave. And that is exactly the aim of the Israeli occupation. Nida Ibrahim, Al Jazeera.
Well, joining us now from Ramallah is Walid Habbas, who is a researcher at the Palestinian Forum for Israeli Studies. Walid, welcome to Al Jazeera. Good to have you here with us. So first of all, to what extent would you say this surge in settler attacks is sanctioned by or approved of by the Israeli administration?
Yes, listen, the distinguish between settlers and the Israeli establishment or the army is perhaps misleading. Israel is occupying the West Bank and it is supervising all the settlement expansions. But when it comes to these hardcore ideological settlers in the West Bank, they are sponsored and funded by the Israeli ministries. I can give you an example from a latest or a recent report issued by Yesh Din, which is an Israeli human rights organization. It lists like the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Heritage, the Minister of Transportation, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Communication. All these ministries, not to mention first and foremost the Minister of Defense, are funding directly the Israeli outposts inside the West Bank. They are sending to them drones, side road trucks, connecting them to infrastructures.
Okay.
And
so are laws then being changed to make it legal to annex Palestinian land?
We can here talk about two fundamental changes. The first is a bureaucratic change inside the colonial bureaucracy that is occupying the West Bank, and here I'm referring to the civil administration and the COGAT. As Smotrich has said 1 year ago, we have changed the DNA of the occupation institutions there. And from the beginning of 2023, the settlers are becoming the sovereigns in the West Bank in the institutional meaning. And here, when it comes to classifying lands or declaring new settlements or declaring state lands between brackets, etc., these decisions shifted from the army itself to new institutions governed by the settlers. And here we can see like a fundamental change in how the occupation operates inside the West Bank. But when it comes to the Israeli Knesset, it was very clear from the decision in 2024 in July that the territory between the river and the sea is a Jewish territory and no other political entity should be there. So regardless how we view, how we see the situation in the West Bank from an international perspective or international law perspective, the Israeli government has entirely different way to approach things inside the West Bank. The settlers are motivated by an ideological, biblical views, and the redemptions of the land is something like soccer for them.
Okay, and we must remember that those under assault are Palestinians just living their lives on their land, which has now been taken from under their feet.
Sure, and let's talk about some statistics. Inside the West Bank, there are approximately 3 million Palestinians and 500,000 settlers. From these 500,000, we're talking about 50,000 settlers. These are the hardcore, they are the violent settlers. I would also mention here a recent report issued by Peace Now and also by B'Tselem, both are Israeli NGOs, saying that during 2024, about 1,700 Israeli police investigations, I'm talking about Israeli police investigations, opened because settlers' violence inside the West Bank. But 24% of these cases were closed without an indictment. But even the 6%, the remaining 6%, were also closed because after they issued an indictment, they closed it because under the title unknown preparators. And here we see the complicity of the Israeli police under, of course, the Ministry of Ben Gvir, the National Security Measures.
Finally, Walid, just as we wrap up, what consequences, if any, do Israeli officials face in light of all this, given that it's in stark contravention of international law?
Yes, unfortunately, the issue of international law has been, since 1967, has been something to archive. It didn't have any kind of deterrence for Israel or for the settlers. Even the unprecedented sanctions issued by the United States, United Kingdom, etc., it did not have any effective impact on the ground. Israel is because unless there is a real deterrence power or a real voice, vocal voice in the international arena, Israel is proceeding, continuing, and the situation in the West Bank has definitely changed since the beginning of October 7th, the beginning of the war, and the new outposts now occupy about 14% of the entire West Bank area. These are to be added to the 9% area of the settlements. So we have here serious new conditions inside the West Bank. International community is only recording, monitoring, documenting, but no more until now, unfortunately. And therefore, we can talk about disastrous future far-reaching consequences, because in the West Bank, there is no space for two nations to live side by side.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
we're going to have to leave it there. I'm sorry to jump in there, but we do have to leave it. Do appreciate your perspective on this. The situation certainly seems to be getting worse by the day. That's Walid Habbas, researcher at the Palestinian Forum for Israeli Studies. Thank you.
Don't miss out and get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.